All right, welcome everybody. KGB Monday Night Poetry. We are in year 24, season 47, episode 12 of this long-running series. We're still keeping going. It's been over a year now that we've been doing it this way, and we're hoping that this is the last season that goes like this. And as we were saying just before we started here, we are hoping to find some way to have it both ways come this fall. But more on that to come. We got a nice full room and two great poets tonight, so let's just move into our first reading. And our first reader will be introduced by my co-curator here, Matthew Yeager. He's muted, I believe.
I know that's my screw up.
That's okay. It was also my screw up simultaneously. All right. So I'm excited about this particular KGB bill because it came to be in a way that KGB bills used to come to be when I first started curating a decade ago, which seemed like the leftover way that I kind of ended up kind of seeing. And in that way, a kind of poet emails you or calls you on a telephone with a curly cord and says they'd like to read, with another poet. And if this is an email, it can be a really, really good email. Or it can be kind of a tough email to reply to. Maybe one that you just kind of look the other way and just let it go through your legs. I guess it's almost kind of a litmus test. Like if you get an email from a poet and that poet's like, hey, I'd like to read with X. And you're like, sounds awesome. Thank you for doing my work for me better than I do it. That's when you know you're doing something right. And this event is also kind of old school in that over the years, we saw a lot of poets meet for the first time at KGB. They had this they were products of the world of print literary magazines to a degree, and they'd have read each other back in the days when poets were mysterious names on the pages of literary magazines. And they'd be like, oh, there's that name again. Oh, another excellent poem by that person. Who is that person? Are they anything like their speaker? And, poets that had, admired one another for years and sometimes decades, were, able to, read with one another and hear one another. Under the auspices of KGB. So, we have a reading like that tonight with Diane Seuss and Kim Addonizio. So last time Kim read here, she read with David Lehman, and it was really a wonderful and a memorable reading. One of those nights when the old liquid honorarium was worth something, or move on from there. Anyway, we talked to a degree that night about the play between a poetic speaker that seems like she might steal your motorcycle if you crossed her, or steal it just because, and a human being who has given a hell of a lot of her time on this planet to helping others. You don't have to be so good in your poems. That's what your life is for. Anyway, hopefully interestingly, for the first time in my own life, I got the reins to a collegiate poetry workshop last spring. And the first writing prompt I gave was kind of a spiritual fusion of David and Kim, two notable poets who also, teach writing notably or have taught writing notably. So David used to do a write what you're not prompt. And he'd give a little excerpt from the proof rock, I am not Prince Hamlet, nor was meant to be, etc. And and he'd say, so write what you're not, and you can be not be a lot of things. Which kind of sets him up for a little rhetorical anaphora, beginning sentences with, no, I am not, and I'm not. And then, so that was the David. And the Kim imperative was write with attitude, just be in a mood, demonstrate that. And, it really, just that little cue, by saying attitude, by saying, have a mood, have an attitude. They start sailing by stars, even these, really sailors who've never even rowed before. They start sailing by stars that lead to poems that other people want to live on. And just the word attitude, and the kids start pumping in the intonation, whatever they think they can get in via typography, and they figure it out. You see their sentence lengths start varying. You see these tempo accelerants. You see them clipping certain words. You see these, cadences, oh, you will you? And, kind of put into the poem. And, an imperative of mood, also brings with it an imperative of drama, because, why the mood, well, what happened to cause your speaker to feel this way? and can be a good mood, aliveness under cherry blossoms, but most often the mood in a poem, when we recognize that the poem has attitude or is of a mood, is complicated, is dynamic. We are registering its shift as we move through the poem. And Kim writes this kind of poem, that we feel changing tempos, that we feel having attitude. But what she's doing at the kind of level of writing, and this is why she goes in that packet to convert Robert Frost to free verse, along with a lot of Etheridge Knight. She's just breaking into that reader's intonation database over and over and playing those piano strings like a harp. There's intonation in drama, and meter isn't really, exactly a star in the sky. Instead of rhythm or meter, there's rhythm. And the rhythm, I mean, if you look at Kim and I think of a robot database reader or something, and they did some kind of a chart, they probably find she uses more one-syllable words than your average poet, because these one-syllable words that she uses they give a lot of rhythmic flexibility. They can turn into like, amphibrax. If the line is, has December in it, you could say it's 4 a.m, the end of December. And one-syllable words can kind of, get in and flex into those places. And so this is another thing that you just see going throughout her poems, and it's an explanation for why they have so much freaking appeal and why people show up, to hear her and Diane Seuss, another poet, whose voice jumps into my ear in this way. So, I wrote this passionately and quickly, and this is what happens. I'm excited to hear Kim read again, as I always am. Kim's latest poetry collection is Now We're Getting Somewhere from Norton. She's author of 7 other poetry collections, 2 novels, 2 story collections, and 2 books on writing poetry that have, should be on every poet's bookshelf. Or if you know a poet who is just trying to get started, get these, get Kim's books. Ordinary Genius is one of them. Bukowski in a Sundress, Confessions from a Writing Life, out from Penguin, is her memoir. Her awards include NEAs, Guggenheims, all the good ones. She lives in Oakland, California. Kim Addonizio, thank you for coming back to KGB.
Wow. Well, can you hear me yet? Can you guys hear me? Okay. Well, that's the best fucking introduction I've ever had. That was fascinating. It's like, whoa, Amphibrax. Great. Love that. So I'm going to read from this new collection. It's called Now We're Getting Somewhere. And I'm really excited to read with Diane also. I have admired her work for quite a while, and we finally met on Zoom for the first time when we did a sonnet panel together at AWP, and haven't yet met in person, but I'm just really, I'm so happy to be reading with her tonight and to hear her read from this new collection. And I'm probably going to do some 14-liners in honor of her book, Frank, as well. But this is not 14 lines. This is Night in the Castle. I'm not sure what to do about that scorpion twitching on the wall. Maybe I should just slam it with this book of terrible poetry. Or just read aloud to it until it dies of a histrionic metaphor bleeding out on the ancient stones in a 5-octave aria. If I get a little drunker, I might try to murder it with my sandal. I gave up on mercy a while ago. That's what happens when you live in a castle on an artist's grant. You look at the late afternoon Umbrian light smearing itself over the tomato vines and feel entitled, like an underage duchess whose husband has finally died of gout, leaving her free for more secret liaisons with the court musician. She might even have poisoned the Duke, the lecherous shit. It's hard to remember what life was like before this, and I don't want to. I want to stay here and poison the king next. I want to be a feared and beloved queen, ordering up fresh linens and beheadings, locking up bad poets in their artisanal hair shirts, torturing academics with pornographic marionette performances. Meanwhile, the scorpion is still there twitching slightly, reciting something about violence and the prison of ego. and I can hear the clashing armies on the wide lawn outside, sinking down into history and then standing up again. And this is called Animals, in response to Walt Whitman's I Think I Could Turn and Live with Animals. They are so placid and self-contained. I stand and look at them long and long. Anyway, and it's actually a little bit of poetry that I love, but I take issue with it in this piece, Animals. And it begins with an O, no H. Oh, Walt, you were wrong. They aren't placid or self-contained. I just watched a spoonbill make carpaccio out of a frog, and crocodiles dining on wildebeests trying to cross the Maro River. It's wrong to say oh in poetry these days, which makes me want to have a loud orgasm right here in an unashamed animal way. You must have been looking at some cows on a farm, but who wants to live like that? Standing around in a shed with sore tits, shitting claustrophobically, or standing around shitting and being tortured by flies and eating grass. I know you like grass, but it's no fun to be a pricey pre-hamburger ruminating with no TV. If you'd had a cable subscription, maybe you would have felt differently, watching Nat Geo Wild and those exhausted herds on the Serengeti. Walt, I still love you, even if this instance you might have been a victim of the pastoral tradition. Let me tell you about animals. The green anaconda swallowed the young capybara whole. Oh, 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 Walt, capybaras are the largest rodents on Earth. I don't think I'd survive as an animal for long, even a large one. Look at the elephants. Imagine being murdered and becoming a doodad or furniture inlay. Walt, I actually like sweating and whining about my condition, hot flashing and bitching in my cream satin sheets, lying awake drunk and weeping in the dark. I definitely like to own more things. An electric knife sharpener, for instance, would come in handy for carving up the less fortunate on special holidays. I want to be lucky as long as I can. Walt, Walt, I don't think death is luckier or leads life forward like you said. I don't think I'm going to grow from the grass you love. I'm just going to have one last blackout in a dirty pink lace dress and be eaten by tiny, ugly, legless larvae. And here's a 14-liner. It's called Grace. And it's in the voice of a white supremacist, which I think you could tell pretty quickly. He also uses the N-word, but I'm not going to say it. It's there, but I'd rather not. So, it's called Grace. Let go and let God is my guard dog. Beware the ragged shithole hordes and bless my chrome molly Bushmaster 223. Rest your asses nowhere near my rod and staff. I raise my beacon hand and torch anyone who doesn't believe Jesus was calved from a virgin and then ascended to his penthouse and will raptor down to smite Jews, abortionists, Muslims, fags, Obama, the Antichrist. Satan was the first to demand equal rights outside the Knoxville Baptist Tabernacle. Well, a boy puts his tongue in another boy's mouth, and they lie down together, shy and barely breathing. And another 14-liner. This is also it's a monorhyme sonnet. It's called High Desert, New Mexico. Temple of the rattlesnake's religion, deluge and heat surge, crash of the atom's rupture. Night blackens like a violin, and bright flower falls from the kitchens of heaven. This is where the seams begin to loosen, where you can walk for miles in any direction. Rabbit, lizard, raven, insect, drone, and almost forget the shame of being human. Smoke tree, Sage, not everything is broken. Horses appear at this remote cabin to stand outside and wait for you to come with a single apple. Abandon your despair, you who enter here forsaken. The wind is saying something. Listen. That was one I wrote after a long time of not being able to write, and then I was doing presenting a BBC radio show on Walter de Maria's land art in New Mexico at the lightning field, and what you have to do there is it's out in the middle of nowhere. I can't tell you where it is because they have you stay in this town and then they drive you out to the middle of nowhere and leave you there at this cabin with you're actually, it's really funny because we were doing a radio show but you weren't allowed to record there. So we had to literally record going to the lightning field, wondering what the lightning field would be like, and then have radio silence for the whole time we were actually at the lightning field. But the horses coming was one thing that happened there. Out in this place where it was just, you in the desert, and it was really quite amazing. So this next poem is called In Bed, and I don't know if you guys ever played this game where, if you're at a Chinese restaurant and you're opening your fortune and you're adding in bed to whatever your fortune is, like, you will meet interesting people and have amazing adventures, and then we in bed. So this has a lot of ellipses in it. So at first it starts out with the 3 ellipses followed by in bed. Then the words in bed go away, but you can imagine them at the end, and I'll just give you a little line for when those happen if you want to sort of make your own fortune cookie. In bed. The world is like an ugly person you're supposed to love for their inner beauty. But some people are just ugly. If you poke them with a short needle, you find badly lit rooms of cheap wall-to-wall carpet and metal shelves of racially insensitive trinkets, so it's often better to avoid them completely and mind your own business in bed. Today is a good day to get things done in bed. An atmospheric river has closed the zoo. The elephants are trudging through the mud. Trees are falling over like myotonic goats and not getting up again. At the bottom of the river, you're in a cozy submarine. Cats asleep on either side of you. As you think about Colette, who spent her last years in her apartment in the Palais Royal, with her phone and books and papers. Time wrote that her novels were about quietly desperate women in love and in bed, but that's all the women I know except for the ones whose beds are shallow graves. Sometimes it's fun when in love to grow loudly desperate and write about it, especially when your lover has left you alone, to be cradled by your microbead boyfriend pillow and its striking azure t-shirt. There are so many things you can accomplish at home. You can meet all sorts of lovely people. You can fake an orgasm to hurry things along, because you would rather be out having brunch with bottomless mimosas or binge watching other people having sex. With a man or just some sperm and the right equipment, you can get a baby and then bring it in bed to sleep with you until it grows up and leaves you alone. But beds are not just for sex or procreation or sleep or sleeplessness smoldering with 4 a.m. dread. Beds are for living. Beds are for life. And for memory, as you lie between cork-lined walls, writing very long sentences in French. Sometimes I'm so happy, I want to kill myself first thing in the morning to make sure I die under my white organic ruched duvet cover, like a marmot burrowed deep under the snow, who can't wake up from hibernation, while others crawl out, ravenous for spring. Let's see, the first section of this is called Night in the Castle. Although maybe sticking to the one-syllable words, I should call it Night in the Place. Night in That Place I Went. This has two one-syllable words as its title. It's called Wolf Song, and it's in this section called Song for Sad Girls. At the party, they're all wearing swan suits. The fur on your back thickens. You're slicked against the wall of the flow-through kitchen between your ex and his girlfriend. You'd still like to devour him as you once did, but you are trying to become human. Though also you are starving, sick of scavenging nuts and berries, gnawing the occasional biscuit. You want to take down a caribou. You want to tackle a moose and rip open the flap of skin swaying beneath its throat and share it with the next wolf to trot by. But here there are no wolves. Through the kitchen window fangs the moon to fuck you up even more, to send you slathering away past the condo community, past the lit houses, into the deep woods. Where there's a moon, there's always a deep woods. And I'll do this since we're in a bar virtually and drinking, some of us. This is a little drinking song I wrote based on Dorothy Parker's resume. Razors pain you, rivers are damp, acid stain you, drugs cause cramp, guns aren't lawful, nooses give, gas smells awful, you might as well live. Resume. Families shame you, rehab's a scam, lovers drain you and don't give a damn, friends are distracted, aging stinks, you'll soon be subtracted, you might as well drink. Sort of the nihilist drinking song. Yeah, another 14-liner. I wrote this when I was in a very beautiful place, having a very bad time. It's called August. What I want is to slice open its stomach and watch its toxic sun uncoil into the sea. Cicadas seething in their asylum in the trees. All this frenzy and scorch, and at night music hammering from the outdoor bar, where the dancers blindside each other with longing, and the long tide slopping in and away, barnacles on the piers clinging in the literal drift. Whatever it is in me that crawls like a wasp over the remains of a picnic, used napkins blown over the senseless grass, tell me how to kill it, how to let it go like the last disaster of love, last boat guttering in the wave swell. And this is called All Hallows. It's bad to be alone on Halloween, worse than spending Thanksgiving with a styrofoam cup of turkey noodle, or a sober Christmas after a breakup, surrounded by happy lesbian couples discussing condo timeshares. You have to turn off your lights and hide from the doorbell. You have to cover your eyes from the knife shadows on the walls, and your ears from sinister music scores, smashing window glass, and terrified girls. You have to remember that time as a kid you vomited all over your fairy outfit at the shopping center, and then peed out of shame, with your ripening talent for making things worse. You had a talent for singing, too. Twice you lost competitions to boys playing the drum solo from Wipeout. You should have just stood up in the auditorium and done your retromingent trick in front of the entire school. Retromingent is self-pissing. Now you do it in poems, laying a golden sheen over the paper, inviting people into the dirty gas station bathroom of your performative loneliness. Princess, French maid, ladybug, cowgirl, zombie. It's the night of the living ex-husbands. The souls are pouring out of purgatory or steaming up from the animals they were trapped in. My father wants a fresh beer. My mother some Fritos with a single bourbon and Coke. My brother just wants to go fishing one more time. cheerleader, angel, skeleton, witch, imago, round about the toilet go, in the fatal kisses throw. Oh, my weird sisters, we're not bad, just lost. Look at Anne Sexton swirling overhead behind Plath and her impeccable broom. Look at all the blottophiliac girls longing to faceplant in Mr. Death's crotch. Ladies, women, darlings, bitches, you, stop it right now and pay attention. Virginia Woolf is rising from the river, sloshing home to Leonard in her Wellingtons, nothing in her pockets but bread. You have to take out the stones and put them back where they belong. You have to carve the names of the dead and then let rain and years destroy them. The moon weakening like a cheap flashlight while your heart blinks on. And I think I'm going to do a couple more. I'm going to do this one from the last section, which is called Archive of Recent Uncomfortable Emotions. This haircut makes me feel ugly feeling. The however much I drink, I can't pretend it's love feeling. The strangled by the foul and ugly mists of vapors and iambic pentameter feeling. The everything I write is shit feeling. The I'm sorry I gave you those blowjobs and did you not understand the meaning of reciprocal feeling. The it's not my birthday anymore, I'm just older feeling. The looking at x-rays of my teeth feeling. The something died in your eyes and I can smell it feeling. The literary recognition might be just another shiny object feeling. The darkling I listen and right now I think it would be kind of cool to die feeling. The Keats is dead feeling. The Leonard Cohen is dead feeling. The blank and my blank are also quite dead feeling. The I am Jean Rhys getting blotto in a dismal room in Paris with black specks on the wall feeling. The maybe I'm just getting blotto feeling. The trees are no longer my friends feeling. The my friends are no longer my friends feeling. The once I was a 19th century Russian novel, but now I'm a frozen chicken entree feeling. The I can always return this feeling in the prepaid envelope provided feeling. The I am the prepaid envelope feeling. And I'll do just two more short ones. And here's another 14-liner. So I didn't realize I had as many as I have in this book until I started looking. And it's another monorhyme sonnet. The Miraculous. The band starts the song over, the rhythm's still wrong, sounds that will never alchemize to music. My brother's new liver is failing. There's someone's loud lover swearing to Christ in the bar to get sober, that the moon is being smothered by the trees and there is no ladder far enough. I go down to the mouth of the river, ugly with waste, yellow foam and trash, a tanker crawling the horizon. What does it bear, oil or chemicals? I was taught a man could walk on water, that if I listened and unhinged my heart, I'd hear a presence stirring the air. And I do. God the murderer, making things perfectly clear. And I see I'm at 20 minutes, but if I can do one more, is that cool? Okay, because I like to, this is the last poem in the book, and I really like to end with it, and not on the note of God the murderer, so it's called Stay. So your device has a low battery and seems to drain faster each day. Maybe you should double your medication. You might feel queasy, but also as if the spatula flattening you to the fry pan has lifted a little. So your breath comes out scorched, so what? Inside, trust me on this, there's a ribbon of beach by a lake. In the sand, fragments of a fossilized creature resembling a tulip. Back in the Paleozoic, online wasn't invented yet, so everyone had to wander alone and miserable through the volcanic wastes or just glue themselves to a rock, hoping someone would pass by. Now you can sob to an image of your friend a continent away and be consoled. Please wait for the transmissions, however faint. Listen. When a stranger steps into the elevator with a bouquet of white roses not meant for you, they're meant for you. Thanks.
I'm going to unmute. I'm going to give you all the power to unmute yourselves. So you can now unmute yourselves and clap.
Oh, gorgeous, Kim.
Hey.
Awesome.
Hey.
Wow. Your break has begun between readers, but we are going to bask for a while in the glory of those pieces.
I'm going to read the chat.
Oh yes, you should. There's so much love for you in the chat. You should definitely spend some time in the chat. You have a deep dive of love waiting for you there.
Or also, I mean, it's good enough that you might just save it till you really need it. I mean, it's
The next night of the living ex-husbands, you'll have it.
yeah. Break out the praise chat.
Is there a way to save it?
Honey, I saved it. I'll send it to you.
Oh, thank you, sweetie. Okay, I'll read it later.
So I'll start the PBS fundraising section of the I can't say interregnum. It's the interreading, author. So what you're looking at now is the KGB Fundly website. And so you also may know that KGB was broken into. So on top of being empty and not having any patrons going in and buying drinks and tipping bartenders, early on in the pandemic, the freezer stopped working and there was a giant catastrophe that you can imagine, the flood that would be caused if one of those giant ice machines stopped keeping the ice. And there was a break-in recently as well. So if you have it within your heart to find something for KGB, if you can think about what you would have spent on drinks tonight, or even what you would have spent on cab fare or a Metro card, if you could donate that to KGB, that would be amazingly helpful. And we're so close to the end of this quarantine, this pandemic. So KGB has been there for us for almost 30 years. And we don't want it going the way of Cornelia Street or other institutions that we've really, missed. So
God, it's so true the way places that you feel like can never go away just do, huh? I guess it happens a lot.
Yeah. And you get rewards. So if you give it the $15 level, there will be 2 drinks waiting for you when the bar reopens, and a $4 tip goes right to the bartender now. $25 gets you 3 drinks, $55 gets you 6 drinks. You can give any level, like if you just want to give like $30 or if you want to give $11, like you can give any level. But if you do make it to the $50,000 level, you get a $45,000 bar tab. And we're hoping that someone will make the $50,000 donation. And
that's really only a $5,000 donation, really, because you're getting it all back.
Yeah, it's how can you afford not to invest in your alcohol future? I mean, the return is pretty great.
Yeah.
So I will put the link for that in the chat. And please, if you can give anything at all, it really helps. $5, $10, $20. Please.
Yeah, imagine the other day they're just like struggling to stay afloat, and then Lori shows up just over a week ago, and the locks have been chipped out of the doors, and someone broke in and trashed the place. Yeah, it was. They're having trouble catching a break over there.
John, am I supposed to do anything else in between? Am I forgetting anything I'm supposed to do?
Well, normally we would announce the open mic, but that already happened.
That already happened. I should say, if you are not receiving these emails from Matt every week, every Sunday, if you're not getting the email every Sunday, make sure that you message me or Matt or John or Jada and give us your email so that we can give you the weekly emails so that you're in touch. And
So that's something we can announce now is next week's reading is actually kind of
I'm
stacked.
sorry.
Um,
I need to do a shower. We'll start this.
wait, go ahead, John.
Yeah, next week we've got a pretty stacked reading with D.A. Powell, Malachi Black, Richard Jackson, and Atsumo Harari, getting a little different vibe going. Also, some of my favorite poets ever in that group. So same link as this week. And if you want to get it emailed to you, just put your email in the chat and Matt will add you.
That is correct. We'll be all over the globe next week. DA will be in California, I believe, and Malachi will be in Latvia, or excuse me, Lithuania. And as for the other two, do you know where they'll be, John?
I do not. And I know Ott is in New York. I don't know where, Richard, but if I want to say someplace in the South, but I don't know that for sure.
Well, most airline miles saved in a single reading yet.
Yeah. That's absolutely true. We had Ann Carson from Iceland. That was some distance.
Oh.
We did.
That was a pretty special night.
Yeah.
I mean, forgive me for saying so, but she's got like gestures that are almost like they're like cute, like she does this thing, like she's just like, oh shucks. And you're just like, oh, and you're just like, oh my gosh, who knew? Like, she's funny.
Yeah, that was really good. We had to change the time a little bit because of the Iceland issue, but that was a great night.
And actually, people are asking for the Venmo, and I should say there is a Venmo account as well. It's just going to take me a moment to get that. And we also this is selfish, but the Fundly lists who's making donations on what nights. And since we're a little competitive with the other series, it's nice that we're like, look, the Monday night readers are the supportive readers. The Monday night readers are the one you need to pay attention. But I will put the Venmo in. And Diane, are you ready to get on to Act 2?
Sure.
All right. So I'm going to take away the power of people to unmute themselves. And please do stay with us afterwards. We will definitely continue chatting after the recording ends. And now I am going to introduce Diane Seuss. A lot of times when I introduce a poet, I think that I am a useful mediator between the writer and the audience. I know something about the poet's work that I want to tell the audience. I want to say, listen for this. I want to say, pay attention to this part you might have overlooked. I want to say, hey, audience, I found the fuel in the gas tank of these poems, and let me tell you what it is. With Diane Seuss, I don't want to direct your attention as much as I want to say, listen to all of it. Listen to all of it, and then listen again, and then listen again. Susan Sontag's Against Interpretation makes the argument that interpretations often replace texts. That if you're reading Oscar Wilde because you want to make an argument about queer aesthetics, that's not reading Oscar Wilde. And I usually want to say, fuck off, Susan Sontag. You're oversimplifying things again. You're mystifying things that are really quite straightforward. I want to say, hey, Susan Sontag, you're the one making us pay attention to the critic, not the critics you're complaining about. But in the case of Diane Seuss, and here I am the critic, and she is the author of the text in question, I may have to invoke Susan Sontag and say that nothing I can say can position you for the sheer gestalt of Seuss's voice. In monologue after monologue, the voice of the speaker is ineluctably real, saying things like, if there's pee on the seat, it's my pee. Or she comes out of the dark seeking pie, but instead finds 2 dead peacocks. Or in this poem, which I have tried so hard to excerpt and cannot, but listen to this run-on in which the 2 characters discuss the severity of a 3rd character's cancer. I'm like, the Hindenburg. And she's like, what's the Hindenburg? And I'm all, it was a balloon that caught fire in the sky. And she's like, a balloon on fire? And I'm all, a balloon on fire. And she's like, a balloon doesn't seem that big. And I'm like, that one was. Do you see? I have been reduced to quoting the work. I stand in front of Diane Seuss's work and I feel ashamed of everything I've ever done that should have been, sorry, I feel ashamed of everything I've ever done to be less weird, to be more acceptable. I stand in front of Diane Seuss's work and think, this is what I should be doing. The first recorded use of the word understand was in the year 888. and it's a dead metaphor to us. It suggests that the best way to truly comprehend something is to stand beneath it and to simply take in its fullness. Join me here. Stand beneath this work and let us take in Diane Seuss's voice in its fullness. Diane Seuss was born in Indiana and raised in Michigan. She earned a BA from Kalamazoo College and an MSW from Western Michigan University. She's the author of many poetry collections. She was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize. She has won many other prizes. She was a McLean Distinguished Visiting Professor in the Department of English at Colorado College in 2012, and she has taught at Kalamazoo College since 1988. I am so excited to welcome and to give you the chance to listen to Diane Seuss.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That was so beautiful. I'm honored. And Kim, thank you for inviting me to be part of this night. I can't, if 5 years ago someone had said you're going to be reading with Kim, I would have said, fuck off. So I'm really honored and in love with your work and with the new book too. So thank you very much. And to KGB Bar, I hope you guys can stay afloat. I think I'm going to start. So my new book is called Frank Sonnets, and it's a kind of memoir in sonnets. And I'm going to begin with the first poem in the book just to kind of set the stage. And then I'm going to read some of the more raw poems in the book because I think this is the audience for those. I drove all the way to Cape Disappointment, but didn't have the energy to get out of the car. Rental, blue Ford Focus. I had to stop in a semi-public place to pee on the ground, just squatted there on the roadside. I don't know what's up with my bladder. I pee and then I have to pee and pee again. Instead of sightseeing, I climbed into the back seat of the car and took a nap. I'm a little like Frank O'Hara without the handsome nose and penis and the New York school and Larry Rivers. Paid for a day pass at Cape Disappointment, thinking hard about that long drop from the lighthouse to the sea. Thought about going into the Ocean Medical Center for a checkup, but how do I explain this restless search for beauty or relief? I go from that poem into sort of all sorts of sequences. The book is organized as it was written, so not chronologically, but this is from a sequence that sort of takes place when I was growing up in rural Michigan. Labels now slip off me like clothes when I was in the dark with some daddy man. And I could turn anyone into a daddy man with my stupendous mind, which is how I thought about things when I was 14. And some half a rapist was scraping the tears off my cheeks with a milkweed pod in his 2-room house on the riverbank. So many boys back home lived without parents. In Fuckerson Park, where some of us teetered, ready to dip onto dirt roads, where shacks were painted Kool-Aid colors and nameless pathways led to Bob's Country Club, and all the dogs were named Pee-hole, and one big colonial prefab from when the Lord led Rose to the right lottery ticket, which wasn't worth the resentment heaped on her by the rest of us. Even Jesus, she said, resented her and smote her that way he does with 1,000 paper cuts, which made the rest of us feel better. And that is the job of Jesus, the most daddy-ish daddy man of all. My favorite scent is my own funk. My least favorite scent, other people's funk. And this, my friends, is why we cannot have nice things. I value the advice I give others, but I don't like the advice that comes my way unless it reflects what I would have done anyway. You know how it goes. I like how my voice sounds in the car when I sing along with Earth, Wind, and Fire, but no one else can pull it off, no one. My bad acting when I acted was charming. I intended it to be bad as a comment on the state of theater in the 20th century. On days I don't have to see anyone, I don't brush my hair, I don't wear underwear or shoes or chemical potions meant to extinguish my funk. And in those times, I am perfectly happy. If you're me, it's luxurious to go unobserved. When asked the inevitable question whether I'd wear eyeliner if I was the last person on earth, no, hell no. Eyeliner is war. When I'm alone, I lay my weapons down. So I was raised rural and then went to college. I got kicked out and I moved to New York City, where some of you are and where we all are virtually. And this is one of the poems that come out of that time. Yes, I saw them all, saw them, met some, Richard Hell, Lou Reed, Basquiat, Warhol, Burroughs, Kenneth Koch, and it all left me feeling invisible or fucked sideways, fucked by a John who stiff shoe on your fee and doesn't leave a tip. It wasn't impressive, it wasn't literary, it wasn't titillating. I hope you are not titillated by it. Their loathing of women was indisputable, sometimes leaving genuine bruises, more often just a sneer or no eye contact, the eyes wandering off like dogs looking for something worth peeing on, or rarely but potently, and maybe worst of all, something involving the word beautiful, weaponizing the word beautiful. Finally, I took a turn and made myself appalling. Like drag queens and anorexics, I did not want to be acceptable. I wanted to be alarming, Hulk, Colossus, freak. Maybe not a great life plan, but a step in the right direction. In that vein, I can't say I loved punk when punk was contagious. CBGB nearly every night at the behest of my boyfriend. Mud Club, I lived within punk's borders. There was no escape from its thesis. It manifested in style and music, everything that was unfolding in my daily life. Chaos, rage, snot, vomit, junk, dissonance, black eyes, noise unmediated by music. It was no more liberated than what had come before and what had come before that. Face it, jazz was the liberation, the blues was liberation. The rest was the same old dangerous white boy song and dance, unaware of its misogyny and convinced that its dangers were innovational and had the power to untap the revolution, which, had it come, would have proven to be a profound disappointment, for they would have lost their supremacy, their faux fiery crowns. Even decades later, when I had a chance to maybe hook up with Jell-O after his monologue concert, I found myself unable to sit through the oxygen-robbing eternity of his diatribe and left early. I heard he ended the night eating pancakes just off I-94 at a Denny's on the east side of Kalamazoo. Mary dull. Those who retain full access to their imaginations are cross-hatched bitches. They may look good from a certain angle, wearing a tight black slip as a skin with their furry legs dangling out the bottom and cornflower boots that originated at some defunct box store and were donated with the soles worn thin and then stolen from a St. Vincent de Paul, while a defrocked nun had her back turned, fumigating bras for resale. Don't marry that. Its boots all jingle jangle. It's not going to loan out its rain hat or adopt a calf. I learned to read at age 3, used a toilet plunger to suck ants out of their holes. One doll danced, another spoke in tongues. What do you want from me? If you rotate me like a jewel, you will locate the flaw that runs all the way through like a pulsing vein of gold that brings in the fat cat colonizers who ruin everything that came before. The fish, the birds, the actual human people. Don't marry that. Go for something with half of an imagination, half or a fourth. Like Mickle instructed about his ashes, a fourth to his mother, a fourth to me. I disobeyed, slit the phony box, and set all of him free. Lately, I've been feeling about poetry like sex. Now and then I'm in the mood, but then the mood doesn't bloom. The thought of it makes me a little sick to my stomach. Lead up, lead in, clean up, mixing of martini metaphor are the hard bangery of no metaphor at all. Cumbersome I like some big dick you have to handle. The we with all that, we are getting ice cream. We are thinking about getting a cat. How does we think about stuff? Is it a brainstem thing? An art I never mastered. I have met people who would bang Ted Hughes on Plath's grave and then write about it. I too bit his cheek, that sort of crap. Yeah, I too have been that person. I want to say at times long ago, I'm better now. Really, I'm just tireder. A guy, I'm going to name him Delaney, once said to me when I wanted to be done with him, now that you've had your little orgasm, murder in his eyes. I called down all the angels from the skies to get him out the door so I could bolt it and wash him off me. His big hand reaching for my throat, the prayer I prayed, that was sex and poetry. I'll just do 2 more sonnets. For me, it's going to be something simple like Kylie Jenner dressing daughter Stormy as Kylie Jenner for Halloween. Or hearing some woman described as having had a bubbly personality, as if that should have staved off murder. I'd move to Iceland, but Iceland won't have me. Anywhere really with emptiness and socialized medicine. All I ask for is a hut with a moss roof. But how many sufferers on this planet have a whole hut to themselves with a moss roof? There are some hard things coming up. You know what they are. We all face them. Though if you're rich, it's a little easier, I hear. Independent living, assisted living, memory care, skilled nursing, muffling the path to the crematory. Damon, raised in Flint, his co-op job was working for a cemetery. He was the guy who waved a big magnet over the ashes to pull out the metal. Told me what ends up in the urn is a conglomeration of you and everybody ever born. It's like an airplane with no first class, that democracy of death thing. From Damon, I learned a lot, but not what happens to a body without the money to be burned. And I'll end with the last poem in the book. And the Frank mentioned here is Frank O'Hara. Howard is Howard Bruckner, the filmmaker who died unfortunately of AIDS. Okay. I hope when it happens, I have time to say, oh, so this is how it is happening. Unlike Frank hit by a Jeep on Fire Island, but not like Dad, who knew too long, 6 goddamn years in a young man's life, so long it made a sweet guy sarcastic. I want enough time to say, oh, so this is how I'll go, and smirk at that last rhyme. I rhymed at times because I wanted to make something pretty, especially for Mikkel, who liked pretty things, soft and small things, who cried into a white towel when I hurt myself. When it happens, I don't want to be afraid. I want to be curious. Was Mikkel curious? I'm afraid by then he was only sad. He had no money left, was living on green oranges, had kissed all his friends goodbye. I kissed lips that kissed Frank's lips, though not for me a willing kiss. I willingly kissed lips that kissed Howard's deathbed lips. I happily kissed lips that kissed Basquiat's lips. I know a man who said he kissed lips that kissed lips, that kissed lips, that kissed lips, that kissed Whitman's lips. Who will say of me, I kissed her? Who will say of me, I kissed someone who kissed her? Or I kissed someone who kissed someone who kissed someone who kissed her? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was dark as shit. And it had a lot of pee in it. Sorry.
No, you can do it. There
I'm
should
the
not be pee in my
poet.
poems, but yours are.
Hmm.
How do you do that? Tell me your secrets.
Mm.
We've got
That's
best
wonderful.
KGB night, in my opinion, in the comments over here from Linda.
That was wonderful. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank you.
taken by surprise.
Good. There's that.
Yeah.
Best Zoom reading yet.
This season has just been unbelievable. Like every week has just been this unbelievably amazing experience. Oh, Kim, Diane, thank you so much. I mean, this was
Thanks
really...
for having us. Thank you, Kim.
Absolutely. Thank you, Diane. It was selfish of me. I wanted to, yeah. And I think we may be bladder sisters.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to stop the recording.